immigrants against us for a long time, and we just haven't caught it. Even with the drug game, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the violence, they've been using immigrants against us. They've been using immigrants against us for a long time, and we've been on some kumbaya shit. And a lot of the animosity, we thought that it was a regional type of thing, but it really wasn't. For example, Willie D, you still in here, brother? Willie, are you in here? My man Willie D in the group Ghetto Boys. I was looking at some hip hop documentary, and my man Willie and Scarface, they were talking about how they went to New York, and they in the mid '90s. They went to New York. I think it probably was the early '90s, but they went to New York and they were getting shitted on. And a lot of rappers would talk about that, even from the West Coast. A lot of people were talking about how they would go to New York and get shitted on. A lot of rappers. They talked about how they went to New York and they would get booed and certain cats would disrespect them. A lot of Southern people would say that. I remember Outkast, they went up there and they felt disrespected. A lot of West Coast cats. And a lot of folks thought that it was just a regional thing, but it really wasn't. It wasn't about region. Black people, New York and the South, there's always been a respect thing there. Yeah, they booed Outkast. We got to understand this. In the 90s, you had a lot of, in the rap game, even now, New York was full of immigrant rappers. A lot of rappers came from immigrant backgrounds. A lot of the hip hop crowd at that time, those immigrant cats were gravitating towards that. You dig? So it wasn't just about them being in the South. See, Willie and those guys, a lot of cats in the South are foundational Black Americans. Outkast and those guys, those are foundational Black Americans. So that's where that energy was really coming from. See, a lot of folks in the South, you come from here on both sides of your family. So that's where a lot of that real animosity was coming from. So you're the real OG Black Americans. So you go to New York and they're making it seem like, well, they don't like your rap skills. Fuck out of here. Willie and Scarface, Scarface is one of the greatest fucking rappers ever. It wasn't about skills. Andre 3000, one of the greatest fucking lyricists ever. It wasn't about their lack of lyrics at all. That wasn't it. You couldn't say that. It was because there was a lot of anti-Black American hatred there from a lot of cats. Not all New Yorkers, because there's a lot of New Yorkers who are really from, their families from the South. But again, at that time, you got a lot of people, a lot of immigrants coming over who came over in the 80s, so they were coming of age at that time. You dig? Yeah, Pimp C, Bun B, these are lyrical fucking gods. You dig? So that's where a lot of that animosity was coming from. Not because they couldn't rap. What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, where was it coming from? And New Yorkers, many of them who are foundational Black American, they got relatives in the South. You dig? The Bumpy Johnsons and all those people, they had roots in the South. A lot of those old Harlem hustlers had roots in the South. You dig? What's up, Detroit in the house? Detroit. So that's where a lot of that was coming from. A lot of that was coming from that type of immigrant animosity. You dig? Yeah, 8-Ball, MJG, man, you got some lyrical heavyweights from the South, man, who can spit heavy. And it wasn't all New Yorkers doing that. It was a lot of those cats who were clicked in with the hip-hop industry at the time. A lot of the people clicked in with a lot of the magazines and a lot of the radio stations. Because, you know, the white supremacists, they would prioritize certain immigrants to be kind of gatekeepers for the commercial hip hop industry. You understand? So a lot of the street team cats and a lot of those folks would actually work for white corporations. It was real heavy shit because look, I remember I went to New York in the early 90s and I was hanging with street dudes. And let me tell you something. The street dudes out there, they were listening to Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and NWA. They were listening to that. So I know for a fact that New York didn't dislike outside shit. That's bullshit. I know for a fact New Yorkers weren't hating on outside shit. So yeah, I would hang out in Harlem and all this shit in the early 90s and niggas be bumping Deep Cover, all that shit. They loved it. So we got to understand where a lot of certain animosities come from and what it's really about and the real depth of it. And, you know, another problem, because when people start talking about that East-West shit, you had cats like that Tim Dog dude. You know, when that Tim Dog dude tried to shit on Los Angeles with that Fuck Compton song, you see, when he put that shit out, you know, he put a bullseye on a lot of cats' backs when they came out here, because it's like, okay, is that your dude? Is that your dude? And y'all co-signing this nigga talking this? And Tim Dog, this nigga was a garbage rapper. And that nigga, I saw him on some television show where he was finessing white women out of money. This nigga became a huge finesser. Is Mink Slide? Yes, we're gonna do a Mink Slide joint pretty soon. Yeah, Tim Dog wasn't he from somewhere? He was like from Jamaica or something. He was a real OG. Not really. Tim Dog was a finesser. He wasn't no OG. We can't put OG on him. Yeah, didn't he fake his own death? I mean, there was a judge who said this nigga faked his own death. So no telling where he is now. You dig? Yeah, and really a lot of the cats from New York who had foundational Black American backgrounds, they respected different cultures. Like, Chuck. Chuck is my dude. Chuck has been to my home. Chuck D and Public Enemy. Public Enemy, they work with, Chuck worked with Cube and a lot of West Coast cats. You know? Ice-T, they loved Ice-T was working with Melly Mel, and he worked with a whole bunch of cats out there. So there was a respect. There was always really a respect. There was always a respect with West Coast artists. LL was working with my dudes, the LA Posse. They produced one of his albums. He came out here with my man Muff and Big Dad. So there was always a respect going back to the 90s. There was always a respect. I'm talking about going back to the 80s. I'm sorry, going back to the 80s, there was a respect. But right in that mid-90s, all of a sudden, things got real janky. They started booing niggas and all this. So people like, where did that come from? That came from somewhere else. I'm telling y'all the hip-hop game, hip-hop history. New York and L.A. and other regions, there was always a respect beforehand. But when some of these immigrant cats started to be prioritized within the hip-hop industry, that's when some of the bullshit started happening. That's where that shit came from. I'm talking real talk, Kimmy. It was some outside energy. Yes, it was. And that's the problem. See, we got to understand where some of this bullshit-ass energy comes from. Yeah, we got to understand where a lot of bullshit energy starts coming from, who's bringing it in, and how did it start. You dig? Who's bringing it in and how did it start? Because, look, people from outside cultures, they have no problem agitating a beef because they're not a part of either group. You know what I'm saying? Like a Tim Dog. Tim Dog is Caribbean from what I understand. So for him to do some stupid shit like fuck Compton, you make the block out for a lot of folks. And then he got G-check. Some niggas hollered at him. I think they saw him somewhere and he started copping pleas But yeah, you don't do no shit like that just out of respect for people in your own lane because you put a target on their backs. Niggas out here don't play like that, especially back then. You know, that nigga was out, he was getting people robbed out here with that stupid shit. The niggas, like, hell, we saw what happened to Search when MC Search came out here, and that was right around the fuck Compton time. You know, when MC Search is representing the East Coast and all that, so he came out and people felt a certain way about Search, and you know, Search is out. He's been explaining how he was under threat and he was afraid for his life, and they had a hit out on him and all this stupid shit out here on the West Coast. What's up, Savvy? You say Cube is your first cousin? Yeah, shout out to Cube. Yeah, Hammer. Yeah, motherfuckers started trying to diss Hammer and shit. No. And then Hammer was like, folks don't know people love Hammer out here, especially in the Bay and even in LA. People like Hammer. Hammer is our brother. Yeah? Yeah, nigga, the town loved Hammer. He thought that Hammer was some kind of soft target or something. Yeah, see, again, outsiders, see? You get these outsiders, because Search is an outsider. You dig? You get these outsiders who don't understand foundational Black American politics, how we have a certain level of respect for each other. We don't just go around shitting on each other like that. There's a certain level of respect that we have for each other. That's just a general respect. And you know, Search learned the hard way. Yeah, Redman was like, hey, do not fuck with Hammer. Yeah, Hammer is not nobody to play with just because this nigga's dancing. Hammer was not nobody to play with. You did? Yeah, Hammer really, he lifted up the whole community. He fucked up a lot of his money trying to lift up everybody, but, you know, it's part of the game. That's part of the game. But yeah, there's always been a respect. That's why a lot of, you made a good point, a lot of people from like New Orleans would go to the Bay, like Master P. Master P really got a lot of his breaks out there in the Bay. He was up there going back and forth to the Bay. And there was a respect there. Yeah? Yeah, I respect Hammer. Hammer's a solid dude. Yeah, a lot of people out here in LA and on the West Coast, a lot of people's origins come from the South. Yeah, a lot of people came up from Alabama, came up from Mississippi, came up from Texas. Yeah, P started in Richmond. Absolutely. He was up there in Richmond, yep. Absolutely. So there was a respect there. Absolutely. And speaking of support, have y'all bought Hidden Colors 5? Do you guys have the Hidden Colors 5 film? Do you have Hidden Colors 5? At hiddencolorsfilm.com. hiddencolorsfilm.com. That's where you can get Hidden Colors 5. hiddencolorsfilm.com. If y'all don't have it, y'all need to go to Hidden Colors Film and watch Hidden Colors 5. What's up, I'm a Goddess? You got yours last week? That's what's up. There's a lot of y'all in here. By the way, I hope, are y'all following me? Follow me. If you're not following me, everybody follow me right now, right here on Instagram. If you're not following me. Yes, your daughter is old enough. There's a few cuss words in it, but she needs to watch it. Oh yeah, did y'all hear the story? The little black girl at a school on the East Coast is at this Christian school. The little girl said a few days ago some white boys pinned her down and cut her dreads. They called her ugly. They were calling her names. They were bullying her. And they cut her dreads. And she did a lot of interviews. She was crying about it. That I don't believe that one bit. I believe that it was a payoff. Understand this. Going to school with white kids. White kids do not get punished. They will pay. I believe they did it. I don't think they would. And their administration they paid that family off so fair. Let me do this. Just bull. They chickens had to speak. So that they never. So you ain't got to do that. You ain't got to do that. You know. But my thing is take the blame. It's like, yeah, okay, look, we came to a settlement. We resolved it. And get a big bag at least. But so you can deter that type of shit from happening again. You in? Yeah, these white supremacists are cold-blooded. They'll start threatening your ass, see? And shit, they were Purdue, but they were like, no, bitch. And she exotic this to their date a long time ago with a girl. And out here, they a little $250